Hello, my dear cobbers. We have the beautiful privilege today to sit with the one and only Mr. Johan Badenhorst from Voetspore. So, Johan, I would like to start by asking you a few questions
Sure.
about all your travels and your experience. I mean, you've been over this world more than some of us can dream of, and I think that is so beautiful. And yeah, so Johan, for those that might not know, could you tell us a bit more about your Voetspore journey? How did it start, and what exactly does the brand stand for?
Yeah. Vanetta, we started about 25 years ago. Started traveling Africa mostly. Did a number of transcontinental journeys. Visited most countries in Africa, more than 40 of them. And then later on even expanded that to other places as well, Madagascar, India, South America and so on. Many people would refer to Voetspore perhaps as a 4x4 brand. I think it's perhaps a bit more. It's perhaps more a lifestyle brand. It's the type of thing that we as South Africans like to do. You know, get in your 4x4 or in any other vehicle and just go and enjoy the great outdoors. Go and camp, go and sleep under the stars, go and have a braai. Do things that I think that's one of the big privileges that we still have in South Africa and in Africa, is to enjoy it in that way. So Voetspore is to a large extent a program in which we live that lifestyle. And therefore we've been going for a quarter of a century, 25 years. We've produced 18 series, most of them are originally in Africa, but then later on, as I say, Madagascar, India and South America as well. And we may continue perhaps in the future in a few other places.
Oh, we can't wait to see it. I mean, I think it's also very special for the viewers, people that don't often get the opportunity to travel, and then they watch Voetspore, I mean, like myself, and then you just captured in this moment, and it's like we're traveling with you.
We are there for the armchair traveler. We are there for, and we engage quite a bit with our viewers as well. We've got a massive Facebook, social media, more than 200,000 people that we engage with on a regular basis. Also on YouTube, each one of our episodes gets viewed more than 100,000 times.
That's incredible.
And from all over the world. You know, that's the nice thing about this. Even though the program is in Afrikaans, we have English subtitles. And the other day I met someone in a small town in Brazil, and he came up to me and he greeted me by, I said, and because he follows us on YouTube.
That's incredible.
So we have a following from all over the world, and I think what we do and how we do it and so on actually resonates with a lot of people, because it's not we don't try and do fancy stuff. We just try and do what the normal guy would like to do. We are very, very privileged to do that, and I've been enjoying it tremendously over the last, it's, for me it became it's not a job, it's a life, That's what we do.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
absolutely. That is so special. Now, as we've seen on a few episodes, you use the COBB quite regularly, and that is of course the main reason why we're here today for you, and that little magnificent cooker. Now my question to you is, how did the COBB grill become a staple to cook on in your expeditions?
It's very important for us to take something like that with. It's important for us to have a braai wherever we are.
Lekker.
And the COBB allows us to do that. Come rain or sunshine, doesn't matter what. We always have the opportunity to use the COBB. I actually use the bigger one.
The Supreme.
The Supreme.
Yeah.
Because there are 6 of us in the team, and so instead of actually trying to force 2 chickens into the smaller one, so we have
That's
more
very
space.
challenging.
So we use the Supreme. I always take it with. I've got a special box, and it's got a special place in one of our cars. In Afrikaans sê ons dis 'n bietjie moeite, maar is die moeite werd.
Oh man.
It's a little bit of a trouble to actually get it there, but it's worth its while every single moment of the time, every single moment when we use it. I do like the COBB because it's so versatile and it's portable, and there are just so many things about it which is special about this cooker. So I'll never go anywhere without it.
I myself am very passionate about the cob. I never go anywhere without it. I mean, when we go on a road trip, when we go camping, we're always next to the road, taking out the cob,
Yeah.
making a lekker boereworst roll, and then we are on our way again. You were talking about some of the initial challenges about getting the cob. You know, it's big and bulky sometimes, but what were some of the initial challenges you faced when trying to cook on location during your travels, and how did the cob solve those problems?
Quite often, and we especially found this in South America, because in Africa, most places you have perhaps a campsite and a place to have a braai. So in South America we never had that. Sometimes we just cooked. We stayed in a truck stop.
Next to the road.
Yeah, where the truckers come and so on, and then they go and have takeaway foods and stuff like that. And we prefer to cook our own food. Cooking is very much part of what we do as well. Apart from driving 4x4s and exploring the world and so on, cooking is also, because we also like to show to our viewers what is possible. So we go and we forage and feast wherever we go, and so we go to the local market and get the local sausages and local vegetables and so on. And to put that onto the cob is rather special.
Now, of all the places you've traveled to, which location provided the most memorable backdrop for a cob cooked meal, and what did you prepare?
It's perhaps not the answer you're looking for, but I can remember one night in Brazil, and we were traveling south. We had just finished our an extensive journey on the Amazon River. Spent a journey of about 1,400 kilometers on the river on a boat where we used the cob, which was quite good to do. But the following day, as we started traveling south, we camped next to the road at the so-called truck stop, and it started raining. It was actually pouring down like you only get in the Amazon rainforest. Yeah. And we took out the cob and we made that very special South African meal, braai. There's absolutely nothing like it. I think Stefan and Nina was responsible for it, and so on. And there was nothing as good as that. And it was pouring down with rain, and we were in the Amazon rainforest and so on. And we managed to do braai at the roadside.
That's amazing.
Even I think it's more. It's not that much a backdrop, but it's where we were that made it special for us.
Have you ever had any interesting encounters or conversations with locals that were sparked by the sight or the smell of the cob in action while you were busy making a braai?
In South America, it was rather interesting because most people travel there in campers. So in other words, they cook inside their camper, yeah, something like that.
Okay.
So, and with us, with Voetspore, it's different because we live outside. You know, we live outside our vehicles, outside our cruises, and so on. And then we take out the cob and then obviously just having a braai, just putting, even if it's local sausages and so on. But in South America, they call it asado. Now, asado is the Spanish word for what they refer to for a braai.
Yes.
It actually refers more to the short rib. That's the specific asado, is short rib, and they cook it quite a lot. Now, and because they cook it and so on, they just started referring to anything that's prepared on the fire. It's asado. So we get various kinds of sausages. Chorizo is mostly pork sausages and so on, and then obviously the asado is short rib as well. So the moment we take out the cob and we start preparing that and so on, the whole campsite, starts smelling of people having a braai.
Yeah.
And that's when we draw a lot of attention from local people who sit and make their little meal there inside their
little camper.
Yeah, it's just so much better to do it on a cob than to
nothing
inside
that
an RV.
Brings together people like a lekker braai.
Yeah,
like
and the
a
smell of it
asado.
just lingering around the campsite.
I think South Africans have this very special talent. We can smell a braai from miles away. Considering these diverse environments you've encountered, how has the cob grill performed in different climates and altitudes? Like the story about cobbing in the rain.
Yeah.
Did it live up to your expectations?
the one thing I really appreciate about the COBB is the fact that you don't need that much fuel. We get charcoal wherever we go, carbon they call it in South America, and you don't need a whole bag just to get the COBB going. It being an oven, and so it contains the heat. So with a very little, small amount of carbon, I do like the pellets that you have in South Africa, but obviously if you start traveling, so you can't always take this sufficient amount with, especially us going on a 3-month journey. So when I'm in South Africa, I use the pellets, but over there we use more of the
Are you referring to the cobblestones?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that little round thingy.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, they werk lekker.
Yeah. And well, I do appreciate that you can use it straight away. You don't have to wait like it's
Like
normally
with
the case.
carbon, you need to wait like 20, 25 minutes.
So that is also, from an environmental point of view, perfect, because you don't deplete as much or don't use as much charcoal as making an open fire. So in that sense, I think the COBB is always very, very cost effective and environmentally friendly.
What are some of your go-to recipes or types of meals that you find work particularly well on the COBB while you're traveling? Something that's hassle-free, that's your go-to meal on the COBB?
Chicken is always good. I love the taste of the chicken that was prepared on a COBB, because it gives it a certain smoky kind of texture as well. So yes, quite often we would do chicken. But the one thing that I know, Stefan is our main braaier. In South America, we've got quite a bit of pork as well, but that's more on the open fire, not in the COBB as a with a dome on, with a lid on, having it as an oven. Just open. So we did quite a lot of pork on there as well. But I'll go back to chicken. I love a chicken on the COBB.
Even me, it gives that, like on the outside, it's even that little pinkish color that the smokiness gives it.
Absolutely.
Nothing beats a lekker COBB chicken. And then, have you mentioned the fuel sources available? Have you ever had to get creative with fuel sources for your COBB in remote locations where you didn't have, let's say, carbon or charcoal or briquettes?
Yeah, it's sometimes you need to make use of wood, and it stands up well. And so, but I think most of the times, we always use a container of charcoal that we carry with. Even before we used the COBB, 20 years ago and so on, it was in Africa especially, wherever you go and so on, charcoal is sold, and the charcoal is of such good quality that you can use it over and over again. Once you finish the braai and so on, you just dose it with water, let it dry again and use it again. That's the quality of the charcoal you get in Africa.
Wow.
But in South America, the charcoal is not of such quality and so on. But I always see to that we have
enough charcoal on hand.
That's the easiest way for us to. If you have a COBB, see to it that you have charcoal.
Always ready to braai.
Yeah.
Beyond its functionality for cooking, has the COBB grill served any unexpected purposes on your travels?
Yeah, I must tell you about one day when we were in Quito in Ecuador, and it was Adam's birthday, and we wanted to surprise him with a birthday cake.
Oh.
So when he went to bed that night, and so Nina dished up she got a cake mix somewhere and so on, and she baked him a cake in the COBB.
On the COBB.
So the next morning and so on, to his surprise, there was a birthday cake in the middle of, in the middle of South America.
In the middle of nowhere.
Something that he would never expect.
Happy birthday with the cake. That's incredible. I myself have been to a boat show somewhere in the middle of winter. I don't know why people have boat shows in the middle of winter. And I was getting so cold in my little tent that I lit the COBB and use it as a heater.
Oh, that's quite a good.
It works very lekker. Works very lekker.
Next time I'll remember that,
For someone planning their own adventurous trip and they are considering taking a COBB, what are your top 3 tips or pieces of advice for a fellow COBB traveler?
I think see to that you have a good container to travel in with for the normal COBB, so that the bag is quite convenient. For the bigger one, and so on, I've got a crate that actually fits in exactly. So you put the cob in there and you close the lid and so on, and it's easy to pack away and so on. And if you don't use the cob and so on, you can use that as a something to sit on. So I think it's very important for you to see to that the cob is portable. See to that you have a specific spot for you in your vehicle and so on where you actually can put it, and it's easy to pack once you've made specific room for that. And then takes the other thing is to, as I mentioned, the cob needs to be cleaned regularly. So take the necessary cleaning material with, so that you see to it that the best thing is to clean it immediately after you've used it and so on, and then it's ready to use for the next time.
Have you noticed any interesting regional variations in cooking techniques or ingredients during your Voetspore journeys?
Yeah, the interesting thing in South America is that, especially in South America, and I refer to that because that's where we've spent the last 3 years, is that they don't use as much spices as what we do. We love a 6-gun grill or whatever and so on to spice our food. They use the fat of the meat to flavor the meat. And therefore the meat is cooked well done. Norbert likes it because he likes all his food well done cooked. And so I like a picanha with just a little bit of, which is still red or pinkish in the middle, and so I prefer that. But yeah, the way that they cook, especially their meat, is a bit different to ours in the sense that they make use, especially in South America, make use of a cooker, like the cob. Much more. So a lot of the, when we did corn, for instance, in the cob,
Yes.
And many other vegetables as well. And so it was very similar to what these people were doing in their own kind of cookers. We in South Africa tend to be more on an open fire, and then until I think the cob to a certain extent changed the way that a lot of cooking is done in South Africa. It's not only open, but it's also inside the cooker, inside the oven.
How is your experience with cooking and sharing meals on your travels shape your perspective on different cultures and communities?
Yeah, people are what they eat. So one would take notice of the different meals that people have in different places. Long gone are the time when people would pack 3 big freezers full of food and then go traveling and so on. You must actually go to the local market or go to the local supermarket if there is one, and so on. ShopRite is all over Africa nowadays, and so let's see what they have. What was rather interesting in South America are the massive variety of vegetables that they have there. We got broccoli there that looks totally different to the broccoli that we know, and then we cooked that on the cob as well, which was rather nice. To have these variety of vegetables cooked on, because you actually go and look for it on the local market, and it's not only tomatoes and potatoes and onions and so on. There's just so much more things that I just cannot pronounce the names of, and so on. It's too difficult. But to speak to the people there and try and find out how they cook it, and most of these things can actually be done in the cob.
Food often plays a significant role in travel memories. I mean, every time you travel, there's new food we taste, and it's always trapped inside of our minds, and we connect it to a certain memory. What are some of the most unforgettable dishes you've encountered on your journeys, whether cooked on the cob or wherever you were? What are some of the most significant meals you've had?
It's interesting that people think of when people think of Africa, they don't actually think of the variety of cuisine that we have here, and so on. Yet we have found some fantastic meals here. If I think, for instance, in Senegal, Senegalese chicken, poulet yassa they call it, and so on, which is chicken which is prepared with a lot of lemon and also mustard, which works perfectly on a cob, in any kind of cooker inside, like we've discussed, and so on, inside the oven. But a lot of actually of an onion as well. Onion garlic, mustard, and lemon. It's perfect. Another meal that I can think of also, which you find all around the Mediterranean, also in places like Greece and so on, but also in Africa. We found this in Morocco. Is kefta. Some people refer to it as kofta or koffa or something like that, which is mince meat, meatballs. And these meatballs are then cooked on an open fire or inside the cob. Actually much easier on the cob and so on, because then it's cooked all around immediately. You don't actually have to turn it like on a normal braai griddle. So, and ever since I learned to do kefta, so it's become a favorite of us at home.
Oh wow.
My wife and kids will always say, when next are we going to do kefta, which is meatballs, and then you serve that with naan bread and some tzatziki and stuff like that. So it really is
I
brilliant.
love the Greek cuisine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lemony and herby
And you find that in Africa as well, not only Greek, but not only in Greece, but also in other parts of the Mediterranean, like in Libya and in Algeria and Morocco and those countries, Egypt and so on.
I love eating.
So
talking about eating,
yeah.
How important is it for you to maintain some sense of familiar food and cooking practices while you're out exploring new and unfamiliar places?
Yeah, sometimes we take when we travel, we always take a bag of meal with us. So now and again, we just want to have some pop. That people just don't know of. In South America, we found that they make a kind of bread which they put on the open fire from maize meal, and that was a strange taste for us. But we see to it that just now and again, we just have some pop and share, some pop and a tomato-based sauce. With a braai. So something familiar is always good. So you go and explore, and you go and eat with other people, eat, and you find out what they do and so on. But now and again, it's just good to get back to some familiar stuff.
Back to the roots.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Looking back at all your adventures, what do you think food and the act of sharing a meal together played in your overall travel experience?
Yeah. I think it's very important to know that enjoying the cuisine of different countries, different places, and so on is so much part of the identity of, if I just think back when we traveled India, just to go into a local eatery, and people eat a lot of curry, yes, and a lot of chilies and so on, but it's not always the chilies that some people just cannot, which is too hot to handle. Sometimes it's just flavoursome. So to go and taste where you travel, I think is very much part of travelling. It's not only scenery and challenges as far as the vehicles are concerned and so on. It's very much also an experience, a culinary experience to see wherever you are. So India is just so much different to Madagascar to many places in Africa, or to South America, or to Europe, and the Far East and so on. So go and taste what you travel as well.
And sharing that meal with the locals, of course,
Most
makes
definitely.
the travel experience.
Always a good way to start a conversation. The other day we were traveling on the coast of Brazil, and we stopped and we started preparing a meal. So one of the local guys came over, he saw that we were eating, and he brought some of his fish soup, which was the tastiest fish soup that I've ever tasted. And he was a local guy, a local fisherman, and he made a broth, and he just brought us a plate full of soup, which was fantastic to taste. I was afterwards I said to the guys, we should have had a meal with him and not prepared our own food. Yeah, it's always a good way to start a conversation, to meet the locals, and to taste, to have a taste of that country.
Based upon your travels and your experience with using the COBB, do you have any suggestions on how to make it better?
The one thing about the COBB that I like is that I think it's a complete product. I like the bigger one because it just allows for instance, me and my family, when 6 people are having a meal, the other one is a little. But just for 2 people, we have a rental company. We have a little chimneys that we rent out, just for 2 people. The small COBB is perfect. but what's it, Supreme, the bigger one.
Yes, the Supreme is the big one.
I love the Supreme me personally, and also to have it in a container. I think that's very, very handy. But no, I don't think there's much you need to change about the COBB. The COBB is a complete product, and you go and buy it from the shelf and so on, and have your first meal in a couple of hours afterwards and so on. No, it's perfect.
That's incredible. Well, did you guys hear? The COBB is perfect. My last question, Johan, what message would you have for people in South Africa and beyond who are considering incorporating a COBB into their own travel and outdoor experiences?
I think the COBB is probably the most portable oven that you can think of. But not only that, you can have a normal braai on it. You can just put it on the table next to your picnic site. But then if you need to bake a cake, it's there. It's just so versatile that taking a COBB with just broadens the number of recipes that you can use, that you can practice, that you can experiment with, and so on. No, the COBB is the thing to use because it just allows you to be a complete cook wherever you are.
People don't realize the significance of a COBB if they don't have one, or if they don't hear from a friend that has a COBB. I mean, if you go into a shop and you're going to see the COBB there on the shelf, you're going to be like, I don't want to pay that money for that thing that I don't even know what it is. But once you understand the value behind the COBB, you can't go without one.
It's just so versatile, and because of its versatility and so on, I think the COBB is an essential for any guy who packs his 4x4 and go and enjoy the great outdoors.
Johan, thank you so much
You're welcome, yeah.
for letting us into your store, guys. There's a new 4x4 fitment center, Voetspore, here in Somerset West. Make sure you come make a turn, come have a lekker cup of coffee with the one and only Mr. Badenhorst. Johan, thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
And happy cobbing.
Happy cobbing. Well, dankie.
Te groot plesier.